Interesting how we have the same talking points at the local levels of committees in Craighead County in northeast Arkansas and all the way over in Benton County in northwest Arkansas, and I will prove it to you right now. Apparently, Senator John Cooper, the Benedict Arnold of Arkansas General Assembly, has he's in a little bit of a tiff with his own committee because, it's a shocker, somebody in the committee thinks he was rude to the secretary in the Craighead County Republican Committee keeping minutes. And so he gets criticized in one email, and so he decides to respond, and he says, James, I don't see the minute situation like you do at all. I didn't hear anyone being rude to Debbie. We were dealing with a complex situation in which there had been issues referred to a subcommittee for 2 months now, and they had been ignored without any meeting being called to deal with the issues. You can see this email. It's up at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, and YouTube. Now, about the fourth or fifth paragraph down, this is where he gets really into the meat and potatoes of what's on his mind. He says, it seems you are suggesting the rest of us just sit down and shut up and do what we were expected to do before. Those days are over. I, for one, am going to expect the process to be followed. If that takes up more time than you like, then so be it. We are no longer going to rubber stamp the desires of a small number of Tea Party extremists in our committee that wants to run over the rest of the committee. You can expect the issues to be vetted in the future. He goes on. So he mentioned Tea Party once there, and then further, let's see here. Yeah, he says, ours is no different. The chairman and vice chairman of the county committee across the state have gotten away for quite a while with playing loose with the rules and ethics. But this is causing a number of confrontations now. Confrontations with the governor, I'll tell you that much. Ours is no different. It is a divided committee, and we don't have many business and professional type people that want to be part of it because we put up with a Tea Party element in the committee. Senator Cooper, business professional types. You mean hospital types that maybe don't have the influence that they want? Hospital types like you donating to Dan Sullivan's opponent. Maybe that's the professional type people that he really wants to see in the committee. I don't know. So he bashes the Tea Party. Again, John Cooper, Senator Cooper, the Benedict Arnold of the committee. And then fast forward. Actually, before we get into Benton County now, let's listen to Senator Bart Hester, shall we? But let's listen to him in October of 2014. Joe, whenever you're ready, sir.
I'm Bart Hester. I'm the senator from Benton County. On both sides of the ticket, that's what we campaign on. I will. I won't. I promise. What we don't campaign on is sometimes, usually, maybe, if the governor does this, if a lobbyist pressure be this way, if my mayor calls, maybe sometimes, right? We need candidates when the going gets tough, and it's tough. We'll remember the I will and I won't.
All right, stop right there. Now, that was the Senator Bart Hester that I first met in October. His first time. He was actually in Jonesboro when he said that. He was on the steps of the Craighead County Courthouse. See how this is unifying both sides of the state? He was on the steps of the Craighead County Courthouse, and he was campaigning for great conservatives like Dan Sullivan, like Brant Smith, Jack Ladyman and others. And he was saying, hey, we need to get these guys elected. It was a tour. We started in Independence County that morning at the Independence County Courthouse. And then we went up to Greene County and Paragould. Then we came into Craighead County. And it wasn't just Bart Hester. There was all of these other, supposedly, and some of them still are, but others immediately caved when the going got tough, when the governor called, maybe sometimes. Interestingly enough, when you listen to that audio, we don't campaign. We campaign on I will and I won't. We don't campaign on maybe sometimes if the governor does that. Fast forward, here we go. Bart Hester, after a Conduit for Action is speaking, and they're opening it up to the crowd last Tuesday night. Senator Hester's in the audience, and he feels compelled to say this.
Bart, you want to open it up by telling us? Go ahead.
I'd like to. So I noticed when you guys pulled your website up earlier that you had a picture of our governor, because earlier today or yesterday you sent your 5,000th article trashing our governor.
Our
we
governor.
know and respect from the Benton County Republican Party. I recognize that your committee fully supported someone else in the 2014 governor election, and you were against our governor.
Our governor.
But the point is, and I like to start you guys with Proverbs.
That controls me.
18:17. It says, when you hear one side, you think it's right till you hear the other side. Senator Hendren will have out a shot evaluation. Ooh. That's a fighter pilot about a fighter pilot scoring of these scorecards. And you may think one is right until you hear the other side. And I will assure you, what you've seen here tonight is full of misinterpretations. It lacks integrity. It is a total organization that lacks integrity. And you can talk to any legislator here. I'll visit with them. I'll stand
Ms.
right
Barbara,
here.
did you ask us here so we could be treated
No
this way?
integrity.
No.
Ms. Barbara, I asked how to have the
So
discussion.
the question is,
Yes.
okay, here's the question. If I, as a legislator, voted on nothing, never showed up to Little Rock, would I score a perfect score on your scorecard?
You would probably improve your score.
That's right. No, the deal is if I never showed up, I never did my job, I'd be a perfect on
Let me stop you right there.
But we
Stop.
won't
Got
less
number
government.
one, never.
Stop. All right. So he's so Senator Bart Hester there. He's bashing Brian King. Now, interestingly, I reached out to Conduit for Commerce today to kind of figure out, okay, what, you know, this accusation, if you never showed up to work, you'd have a perfect score. Well, if you notice, say, I got a good answer on this, and I'm sure they don't want to hear this. But see, if you notice on the Conduit for Commerce scorecard, and if you want to know, if you want a good tool to know who's for limited government and who's not, you really need to look at the Conduit for Commerce scorecard. It's conduitforcommerce.org. If you'll notice, you can get a negative score on their scorecard, right? And that's exactly right, Joe. I haven't even told you that. If you never show up, you get a 0. That's how the score. So, and then based on that, so if you did nothing, you would actually start at a 0, which essentially would be middle of the pack, right? You wouldn't be number one. It goes back to priorities. It goes back to the bills that were scored, the votes that were made, the votes that were made for good bills, the votes were made for bad bills, the votes that were made for, you know, vice versa. It's very simple, but these guys don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. And I'll tell you this. There are people who are desperately trying to figure out how to salvage loyalty to the governor, because the bottom line is, and this is the truth, Jim Hendren, Asa Hutchinson, and now I guess the cheerleader Bart Hester, they have put really good people in really terrible situations. They have put really good people who are in elected office in really terrible situations. Whether it's, you're going to shut down, kick people out of nursing homes if you don't vote for Obamacare, or you're going to vote against the troops if you don't vote for our tax increases. They put, and I feel sorry for a lot of them. And in some ways, I mean, I want more leaders, and but I'm just like Asa and Jim. They have just put really, really bad situations on their own people, on their own Republicans. And they need to realize that. If you got a problem with your score on Family Council, you got a problem with your score on Conduit for Commerce's, that's because you've been following the progressive liberal agenda in that of Senator Jim Hendren and Asa Hutchinson. And it's right there in front of you for you to look and see how they voted on each bill. It's pretty fascinating. And, Bart Hester here, he starts pointing to the sky when he talks about Senator Jim Hendren. He points to the sky. I miss the Bart Hester from 2014. What happened to that Bart Hester? Come on back, Bart. Come on, man. What happened to Bart Hester that said you don't campaign on, maybe sometimes you campaign on I will and I won't. You campaign on I will and I won't, and then you went ahead with Asa's scheme for the line item veto to continue Medicaid expansion funding. And everybody knows it. I mean, my goodness, you went along with a scheme that required every Democrat in the Senate to trust that Asa would line item veto. The Democrats voted for ending Obamacare funding. Think about that. And you went along with that scam just so you could say that you voted to end it, and they went and voted for it too. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So Bart Hester, keep going here. Bart Hester goes on to bash Senator King a little bit more, but then Conduit founder Joe Maynard responds. Take a listen.
Comes to work, never votes, rarely ever. They score him number one. That's just one little thing that I will show you all the rest. But wait till Senator Hendren, who we know and respect, and they trash daily,
points to the sky.
We'll have his shot evaluation on this later this week.
Let's stop for a second.
I would say we don't trash any.
I'm going to say one thing. Okay. First of all, he quoted Proverbs out of context. Okay, that's first of all. I mean, he quoted the book of Proverbs out of. They want you to believe that legislators are their own cross-examiners, that they are not the originators of the subject material. It's. I mean, you look like a moron when you do stuff like this. Okay, it may be good to start what you're going to say with the Bible verse, but when you take it out of context, it may be good to start a presentation to remind everybody you're in the military and fly a fighter pilot or have flown fighter jets. It may be good, but it's beyond that. We're talking about the substance of situations. Okay. Anyway, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, this is what I'm going to say about this, grading your own paper, is it's meaningless. That's all I have to say about it. It doesn't mean anything. Keep going, Joe.
One, we focus totally on their policy and what they do. I want everyone to please go to the website.
Go ahead. In fact, if you
there is an article out that we have that addresses this very issue.
Yep.
And it is...
I've got articles on trashing our governor.
We do have a lot of footnoted, and every one of them are filled with facts. Now,
Joe Mayer.
It's interesting that the legislators will score somebody scoring them. So you kind of got to grade your own paper. That's not their job. I can't force you to do anything. I can't make you pay anything, and I can't pass a law to make you do things. But every one of them can. Now they're going to turn around and score us. And I want to hear facts about what we've got wrong. We can disagree on opinions, and we should. And we should have those discussions with our friends. But sometimes we're only friends when we do what you want. And that ain't happening here, folks. We're friends in liberty. If it promotes more government, we're going to say why and who. Count on it. We're not liars, but if we want to count lies, we'll be glad to have that debate, too.
Stop. Yeah, okay, so that's... See, when you're right on substance... Oh, my goodness. Anyway, all right, so we got to take a break now, but that's just some of the fallout from the Benton County Republican meeting last Tuesday. We'll get to more of the fallout when we come back.
The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to triple-rpawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's triple-rpawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at Triple R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat, triple-rpawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Do you need conservative legislation killed?
Or do you need policies enacted that ensure government growth?
Then you need to get
Nephewed. Hi, I'm nephew number one of uncle, nephew, and nephew, attorneys at law. I'm not a lawyer, but I am a senator.
And I'm nephew number 2, and I am a lawyer and also a senator.
Are you the victim of a recent accident in which the voters in your community mistakenly elected a limited government conservative who is now actually implementing the ideas he or she campaigned on?
That's right, nephew number 1. Don't be a victim of democratic elections any longer. At Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew, we are committed to killing limited government legislation and promoting bills that increase the size of government by using any tool at our disposal.
Because sometimes the truth of the matter is, principles get in the way of pragmatism.
Just listen to some of our great testimonials.
Ever since I've been using the nephews, all my special interests have been served. As long as you make sure your contract says lobbying services are prohibited, then the legal services of Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew are legal. Trust me, put the nephews on them.
It came out of nowhere. I was blindsided last election cycle when my well-funded and paid-for politician lost to some grassroots limited government voters. But then I hired the nephews, and they killed all the conservative policies the voters wanted. I got nephewed.
I got nephewed too, and so can you. Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew will accept compensation via campaign contributions. Put the nephews on them.
PHP Parody. Broadcasting across Arkansas and holding politicians accountable for what they say and do. The Paul Harrell Program.
870-275-9799. This organization over here has no integrity. It's totally cool for them to question the integrity of others, but we can't question their integrity. You know what I'm saying? I mean, good grief. Mr. Josh Waters, all he did was ask for a roll call vote, and apparently they're so sensitive. Joe Chat was like, "You questioning my integrity? Are you questioning my integrity?" No, I just. And then, of course, everything that he said was true about the roll call vote. He passed it on a voice vote. Then they did a roll call, and it failed because it didn't have the 11 votes required to get out of committee. I don't know, man. I thought he was questioning his hearing. But, I mean, I guess you could say some of these guys need their questioning. Look, they're in questioning. Some of these guys need their integrity questioned. I mean, it's like what you just heard here. Every one of your elected officials can pass a law that drastically affects your life. How many taxes you pay, what kind of burden the government's going to be on you in the next generation. And they want to define their record. It's pretty easy, you know? I mean, the record is up on the government website. It really just speaks for itself. It's up on the Arkansas Legislative website. We'll be back more on this, the similarities between Benton County and Craighead County talking points when we come back.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
So I noticed when you guys pulled the website up earlier that you had a picture of our governor, because earlier today or yesterday you sent your 5,000th article trashing our governor, who we know and respect from the Benton County Republican Party. And I recognize that your committee fully supported someone else in the 2014 governor election and you were against our governor. But the point is, and I like to start you guys with Proverbs, I believe it's 18:17. It says, when you hear one side you think it's right till you hear the other side. Senator Hendren will have out a shot evaluation. That's a fighter pilot about a fighter pilot scoring of these scorecards. You may think one is right until you hear the other side. And I will assure you, what you've seen here tonight is full of misinterpretations. It lacks integrity. It is a total organization that lacks integrity. And you can talk to any legislator here. I'll visit with them. I'll stand
Ms.
right
Barbara,
here.
did you ask us here so we could be treated this way?
No.
Ms. Barbara, I asked how to have the discussion.
So the question is,
yes.
Okay, here's the question. If I, as a legislator, voted on nothing, never showed up to Little Rock, would I score a perfect score on your scorecard?
You would probably improve your score.
That's right. No, the deal is if I never showed up, I never did my job, I'd be a perfect on their scorecard.
But we
The
want
guy
less
that got number
government.
one never comes to work, never votes, rarely ever. They score him number one. That's just one little thing that I'll show you on the rest. But wait till Senator Hendren, who we know and respect, and they trash daily, will have his shot evaluation on this later this week.
I would say we don't trash anyone. We focus totally on their policy and what they do. I want everyone to please go to the website.
In fact, if you
Well, there is an article out that we have that addresses this very issue, and it is.
I've got articles on trashing our governor, trashing everyone.
We do have them all footnoted, and every one of them are filled with facts. Now, it's interesting that the legislators will score somebody scoring them. So you kind of got to grade your own paper. That's not their job. I can't force you to do anything. I can't make you pay anything, and I can't pass a law to make you do things. But every one of them can. Now they're going to turn around and score us, and I want to hear facts about what we've got wrong. We can disagree on opinions, and we should have those discussions with our friends. But sometimes we're only friends when we do what you want. And that ain't happening here, folks. We're friends in liberty. If it promotes more government, we're going to say why and who. Count on it. We're not liars, but if we want to count lies, we'll be glad to have that debate too.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this.
We only got 30 seconds left anyway,
but you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a conduit.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, folks. Welcome back. Telephone number 870-275-9799. We have some folks on Facebook. Let's see here. I want to read this one comment. Mark writes, you're officially in the crosshairs, Paul. Your personal protection detail is on standby. Keep them on their heels. Listen, Mark, you're not the first one. It's been amazing. Over the last month and a half, 2 months, I've had people come up to me and ask about my security. It's almost as if you guys actually are believing that we're hitting on stuff that really powerful forces don't want us hitting on. I mean, who am I to talk about hitting on things? I'm not Dan Douglas here. Remember, I'm sorry. He did in the middle of a committee. He, said he liked to sit next to an attractive woman, and that woman actually testified for on his behalf. Anyway, all right, so the phone number. By the way, Dan Douglas was in the meeting. He was at the Benton County Republican meeting. You can see him in the video, those of you watching online. So let's get to the consistency of things. Joe, will you forward to Jana De La Rosa's comments? I know that's not queued up right now at this moment as we see, but State Representative Jana De La Rosa, she took to the floor shortly after Bart Hester was there to express her dismay at the entire conduit fraction presentation and why she doesn't come to her own committee meetings. Take a listen to this.
I don't have a question for them. I got a question for everybody in this room. And I'm going to be ugly for just a second.
Uh-oh, don't be ugly. Jana De La Rosa, no.
I'm tired of it. I hear this all the time, and I'm tired of hearing it. This is the Republican committee. Mm-hmm. And you guys are after your own elected officials.
Yep.
We're in this room, and we're being put down, we're being told we're not being accountable, we're being told that we're not conservative enough, we're not Republican enough. We're in this room with you.
You're growing
if
government.
you want to know what my voting record is, I'm right here. You don't have to go look at their scorecard for their interpretation of it. I'm right here.
So this confirms that Bart Hester took the Proverbs verse out of context, because she is essentially saying, Janet Del Rosa is saying, don't look at their scorecard. I'm right here. She wants to be the one to explain her voting record. It is actually the outside groups, okay, that are the cross-examiners. Senator Hester, if you would have you believe that verse, you remember the verse it was, Joe? Proverbs 18:16 or 18:17 something. Anyway, he would have you believe that he is a cross-examiner. That you're cross-examining yourself. Tell me, how can you cross-examine yourself unless you're like Jim Carrey in that movie Liar Liar? Like how is that? How are you able to do that? Okay, this is Janet Del Rosa. She's upset. I can't believe it. Back it up just a little bit, just a hair. She's upset. She's telling everybody, you don't have to look at Conduit for Commerce's scorecard. You can just take my word for it, is what she's saying.
479-236-3060. It's all over the place. It's my phone number. Same for everybody else. You want to know why we don't show up here very often, as Representative Hendren pointed out?
Tell us.
Because of this. Because when we walk in this room, half of you are nodding your heads going, yeah, those elected officials, they're not acting right. They're not acting right. Well, you're talking about us. Would you show up to a meeting where half the people in the room were against you? Not all of you.
I can't believe that that's the attitude. Can you believe that's the attitude of an elected official? Well, would you show up and do your job and get the input of your own citizens? I mean, essentially what she's saying is, she says half the people in the room. I think there's more people in the good party of Benton County that are fed up with ACE's progressive liberal agenda. She doesn't want to hear from you. I mean, she's essentially like, well, I've made up my mind. I'm a middle of the road Republican at best. I don't care if you guys want me to go against liberalism, progressivism, growing government. I'm going to continue. That's essentially what they're saying is I don't want to hear. I mean, why, as an elected official, I mean, why not engage? Why be afraid of the conflict? Why be afraid of the debate? If you're right on your points, stand up and make your points. If you're right, that's what conservatism used to be about. It used to be about honest debate, not avoiding controversy, and conservatives shouldn't avoid controversy because it's easy. It's easy because limited government works. And we're right on substance. It's the left that, oh, I'm scared. It's the left that operates based on emotion, trying to get what they want based on emotion. That's what the left does. But that's as evidence. I mean, look how they don't want to debate. That's just evidence that they are veering off to the left at the very least. It's much worse than that, in my opinion. Much worse than that. Continue. State Representative Janet Del Rosa goes on.
A lot of you are very supportive of the Republican Party, and you follow the goals of getting Republicans in power, and you don't expect 100% agreement with absolutely every single thing. You can't get 100% agreement with everybody in this.
Stop. A lot of you are supportive of the goals of the Republican Party, which is to get Republicans. Notice, she doesn't say get Republicans elected. She says get Republicans in power. Get Republicans in power. Those are the goals. That's all that you need to know. Just let Republicans have control.
Last time I checked, the prerogative and the goals of the Republican Party was to shrink government, not to put Republicans in power.
You're exactly right. But they are abandoning that. Can you hold our place there, Joe? Okay, hold the place there. And I want you to go all the way back at the beginning of that particular clip that we have there. And I want you to listen to this confrontational presentation that elicited these responses from Senator Hester and Janet Del Rosa. Start at the very beginning. This, again, Conduit founder Joe Maynard.
I wanted to talk about three things tonight, and some of them are repetitive, but one of the three things is, how do we discuss and disagree now that we're in the majority in the state? It was easy to say, those Democrats doing this, You know, we believe in this, we believe in that, and we believe in that. And when we get control, we're going to repeal Obamacare. Well, how do we have that conversation now with the people that we have placed our trust in? And then how do we gain the majority to start with? And then what is our agenda at Conduit? Because there's been a lot of speculation about it, but I don't think anybody's told us yet what our agenda is. But they always talk about it. Relative to item 1, the Republican platform is fairly clear. The low-hanging fruit, as we call it, that virtually no one disagrees on is, you know, gods, guns, and abortion. You know, if you're right on those 3 things, nobody really cares or knows or looks into what you do with the money. Well, that's where we come in. It's time for the Republican Party to mature, in our view, as a majority party and live up to the promises that it makes to the voters.
Yep.
If you see something, say something. Everybody heard that statement? Mm-hmm. Does that apply to when you see something that goes on in Little Rock that seems contrary to what has been told to the voters? Do you say something, or do you just shut up, be quiet? Or do you go settle your differences behind closed doors as Republicans and then come out unified? Well, we've tried that, and they ain't biting. I have a hard time sometimes talking to my friends and people that aren't affiliated to convince them, if they know anything about what's going on, why to be a Republican. I can talk about the principles, but they see what's happening. We've got to address that as a party now that we're in the majority. Yes. Yes. Second point, how did we get here? I don't know. I haven't been involved that long. But what I have seen and
just stop right there. So isn't that just so inflammatory? How do we have these conversations? And this is kind of where we're headed. It's fascinating, right? Joe, go back to what Janet De La Rosa said. Fast forwarding, and let's see what happens. If you can find it, I'm sorry. I know I'm making this difficult.
Every single thing. You can't get 100% agreement with everybody in this room. Won't happen. Every one of you thinks you're the perfect conservative, and you're going to disagree on stuff. That's the way it happens. My point is, you can feel the tension in this room, can you not? I can.
No.
Well, I can. And I know that some of the other legislators can too.
Stop.
It's very uncomfortable.
You can feel the tension in this room. From what? Okay, from what? Okay, go back. Go to that 448 mark. Okay.
That's my closing.
This is Joe.
Something the last 6 years have taught us. We've been in 3 sessions, legislative sessions, every 2 years, and we've talked to a lot of people, and we know a lot more about what goes on than most people that are involved. If you think we can elect Republicans and count on them to fulfill your wishes now that we're in the majority, we're all going to fail. We must have painful, uncomfortable, and personal debate and discussions. Not doing so will end in tyranny. And whose fault will that be? All right.
Stop.
Okay,
so the whole crux of this was, how do we have these difficult conversations? And Janet De La Rosa doesn't want to have them. Doesn't even want to have them. You guys are mean. And when you show up here, it makes us uncomfortable. Can you feel the tension in the room, she says.
Every single thing. You can't get 100% agreement with everybody in this room. Won't happen. Every one of you thinks you're the perfect conservative, and you're going to disagree on stuff. That's the way it happens. My point is, you can feel the tension in this room, can you not? I can.
No.
How do we have the conversation?
And I know that some of the other legislators can too. It's very uncomfortable. It's very divisive. And it starts when that group comes in. If you want to know what will happen in Benton County, you start listening to this kind of thing, go look at Washington County. Go look at what happened in Washington County. That's enough evidence right there.
Washington County is great.
We're ready. Meetings for members.
We are wonderful.
I know people that have come in and said, this place is nuts, and walked right back out. Benton County has gotten along very well. You know, it's been very open, and when John Carl was chairman, I think it was the last time that I was here, very welcoming, very nice, and I'm just saying, it's not feeling like that anymore, and I'm most disturbed because I saw so many heads nodding when they were saying, you know, we need to get our elected officials back, we need to primary them, we need to, you know, all this kind of stuff. Nobody said that. How many
The presentation had nothing to do with that. Again, it was just about, had the scorecard, bad bills, good bills, and they mentioned no names because they were requested to not mention any specifics of names. They just gave the presentation, and then she starts talking. Listen to how disturbed Janet De La Rosa is. She's disturbed. She saw so many people nodding their heads during the presentation. Maybe people can recognize truth when they see it, huh, State Representative De La Rosa? What do you say to that, Senator Bart Hester? You think they can recognize truth when they hear it, when they see it, when somebody takes the time to point out the minutia that when you're down at the Capitol is absent from us unless somebody explains it? I don't know. But here we have the unity between Craighead County and Benton County that I was telling you at the top of the program. Craighead County and Benton County. You have the Benedict Arnold of the General Assembly, Senator John Cooper, and his email. Tea Party extremists have too much power here. We're going to quit catering to this divided committee. We're going to start doing things the right way. What does Janet De La Rosa say? Don't let Benton County become like Washington County. Look what happened to them. It's because Washington County's full of actual conservatives. If Janet De La Rosa had her way, John Woods would have been the county judge candidate. Indicted John Woods would have been the county judge candidate for Washington County if Janet De La Rosa had had her little Con Arkansas Political Action Committee click way. And that's just the truth of the matter. If you want to come on back, come on back. Come on back to true limited government, but it's going to require you standing up to Uncle Asa and Nephew Jim. That's the cost at this point. These two guys have put you in terrible situations where you've had to vote against the majority of the people in that room's wishes that you shrink government. The majority of people in a Craighead County committee room, the majority of people in a Benton County committee room, and you have no one to blame but Asa and Jim, honestly, because you guys have been put in these situations. You vote for tax increases or you're against the troops, right? You vote for Obamacare or you're going to, throw people out on the street and we're going to defund DHS. Republicans should be putting other Republicans in that position. Now, know the platform. That's also, I got somebody on Facebook. That's because she doesn't know the platform. Patrick on Facebook says that. They may not know the platform that they actually run on. They may disagree with most of it. And that's when I'm beginning. The honest ones, I wonder, do you disagree with most of that platform? Or do you only agree with the platform when Asa gives you permission to support it? Do you only agree with the platform when Nephew Jim gives you permission to support the platform? Real quick, go back. Here is Bart Hester. Can we hear Bart Hester again, a la 2014, circa 2014? Yeah, remember this?
I'm Bart Hester. I'm the senator from Benton County. On both sides of the ticket, that's what we campaign on. I will. I won't. I promise. What we don't campaign on is sometimes, usually, maybe, if the governor does this, if a lobbyist pressure be this way, if my mayor calls, maybe sometimes, right? We need candidates when the going gets tough, and it's tough.
It is
we'll
tough.
Remember that I will and I won't.
Mm-hmm. You know who's made it tougher? Asa and Jim Hinder. They have actually made it tougher on those who want to follow their principles and vote the platform. And it's really a shame. It really, truly is a shame how fast people just caved. I mean, I hope Bart Hester, honestly, Senator Hester, come on. That statement is dynamite, man. That statement is great. And you go from that, and then you go from that, which that event was organized, by the way, by many of the same people that you now say have no integrity. It's just, it's really sad. It's really, really sad when you think about it. By the way, Senator Hester He is one of the bills that he wrote. I saw this over the weekend. There's a lawsuit now that is challenging a law that he sponsored. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Here's a quote from the lawsuit. It has to do with how you assess, real quick, it has to do with how you assess property for taxation concerning billboard property. And Senator Bart Hester was the sponsor of the bill that made sure that they were going to assess the property based on cost and not based on market value. And Senator Bart Hester has property that is used by billboards. Some people are calling foul. This is a special interest, the kind of stuff that makes people sick, I'll be quite honest with you. But it's a lawsuit that's out there. And, I mean, can you imagine if you're, and this is what the Arkansas Times notes, that if your house property tax was assessed based on cost instead of market value. The idea is the break comes if you've got a billboard that, let's say, is in, let's say the billboard is in a bad part of town socioeconomic wise, and versus a billboard that's in a really good part of town socioeconomic wise. And anyway, it is certainly a fair criticism, but now somebody's challenging that law, by the way. Just wanted to bring that to your attention, considering Senator Hester's in the news, or at least in my book he's in the news, not just for what we've been talking about, but also this lawsuit that now somebody's suing, saying, hey, look, this law is wrong. The phone number, call us, text us, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Back in a moment.
The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group. If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody.
870-275-9799. When we come back, we've got one Conduit for Action article that has fallen through the cracks from last week. I think it came out on Friday. It's really good. It's about the increase in per diem that has occurred. They basically tripled their budget for the tax farce committee that's probably going to raise your taxes or try to figure out some way to do it without you figuring that out. Then we have another one that's really good about John Brummett, liberal columnist, being used by a Republican governor to put out his talking points. Wait till you hear these two articles. Also, next hour, our whiteboard for this week, which we have not discussed. Here we go. The elephant and the chickens. That's what it says. The elephant and the chickens. Two popular phrases. This is based on two popular phrases. I'm sure you can. Can anybody guess? You've got it. So the elephant and the chickens. So that'd be one phrase would start the elephant. You can finish that phrase, and then the second phrase would start. Separate phrase would start the chickens. You can finish that, and that's essentially what it means. I'll get into it more when we come back here in the next hour, our whiteboard for this week. That's pretty good. That may be one of my favorite ones. If anything, it's fun to say. The elephant and the chickens. Who are the chickens in this situation? Who is the elephant in this situation? I don't know. We may not get that literal with it. We'll have to see. We do have one more hour coming your way next. Dennis on Facebook, shout out. Thanks for listening, sir. You write, politicians talk not out of both sides of their mouths, not only out of both sides of their mouths, but they will blow nonsense out of every orifice of their bodies and try to blame the smell on everyone else in the room. Ooh. That's pretty. Everyone's the dog, Joe. That's really good. Everybody's the dog. You know what it really is? You know what it really is? You know what the politicians are really doing? And this is a popular phrase right now because of all of the sexual misconduct that is occurring out of Hollywood and people figuring things out. The term blame the victim. Have you heard that? Sometimes they want to protect the economic status of somebody, the amount, so they blame the victim. It's what Hillary Clinton did with all the Bill Clinton stuff. She was blaming the victims. Blaming the victims when it comes to Republican Arkansas establishment politicians is essentially they want to blame the taxpayers for not paying enough money. Or they want to blame the victims who are the very people that have to live under their tyrannical votes. So if you point out, hey, you voted this way. See, this is why I don't come to your committee meetings. You're blaming the victims of your big government votes. That's what State Representative Janet De La Rosa was doing. That's what Bart Hester was doing, blaming the victims of their own big government progressive voting records.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Well, let me say this to you, Joe and Brenda and the rest of you all. I've seen you in Little Rock. My whole life, I've loved competition. Bring it on, is what I say. In baseball, basketball, politics, or whatever. And we will face up to it. And I've got a lot of disappointment with what's going on in Little Rock right now, and I speak from a perspective off and on for the last 40 years. Off and on, not continuous, but off and on, as you know. Let me just say this and to conclude. One thing you've accomplished tonight, and probably will do it Friday, whether Bart agrees with you, or I agree with you, or Jim agrees with you, and Jim's not here, so I'm not going to say a lot about it because I don't think we ought to. Personally, I'm not going to get on people who are not here, can't speak for themselves. He's in California trying to sell plastics, I think. But anyway, I hope he sells a lot of them. Me too. Let me say this. The last committee meeting, and I try to attend most of these, I think perhaps I was the only legislator here. I think I was the only one. And one thing Brenda and Joe and the rest of you have done, at least you've gotten the other legislators here tonight instead of being in Little Rock.
I don't have a question for them. I got a question for everybody in this room. And I'm going to be ugly for just a second here because I'm tired of it. I hear this all the time and I'm tired of hearing it. This is the Republican committee. And you guys are after your own elected officials. We're in this room and we're being put down, we're being told we're not being accountable, we're being told that we're not conservative enough, we're not Republican enough. We're in this room with you. If you want to know what my voting record is, I'm right here. You don't have to go look at their scorecard for their interpretation of it. I'm right here, 479-236-3060. It's all over the place, it's my phone number. Same for everybody else. You want to know why we don't show up here very often, as Representative Hendren pointed out? Because of this. Because when we walk in this room, half of you are nodding your heads going, yeah, those elected officials, they're not acting right, they're not acting right. Well, you're talking about us. Would you show up to a meeting where half the people in the room were against you? Not all of you. A lot of you are very supportive of the Republican Party, and you follow the goals of getting Republicans in power, and you don't expect 100% agreement with absolutely every single thing. You can't get 100% agreement with everybody in this room. Won't happen. Every one of you thinks you're the perfect conservative, and you're going to disagree on stuff. That's the way it happens. My point is, you can feel the tension in this room, can you not? I can.
No.
Well, I can. And I know that some of the other legislators can too. It's very uncomfortable. It's very divisive. And it starts when that group comes in. If you want to know what will happen in Benton County if you start listening to this kind of thing, go look at Washington County. Go look at what happened in Washington County. That's enough evidence right there.
Washington County is great.
We ready?
Washington County has delegation meetings for members.
We are wonderful.
I know people that have come in and said, this place is nuts, and walked right back out. Benton County has gotten along very well. You know, it's been very open, and when John Carl was chairman, I think it was the last time that I was here, very welcoming, very nice, and I'm just saying, it's not feeling like that anymore, and I'm most disturbed because I saw so many heads nodding when they were saying, you know, we need to get our elected officials back. We need to primary them. We need to, you know, all this kind of stuff.
Nobody
said that. How many legislators in this room have made primary?
Yes or no? Vote yes, no. That's truth.
Who said that?
Who said that?
But that's what they do.
Okay. But no, who said it? Who said there was primary?
You haven't been here to observe us anyhow. You don't come to our meetings.
This is divisive. It tears apart the committee versus the elected officials, and that's my point. That's my point. Well, I'm an elected official standing here telling you this. Why are you telling me I'm incorrect? If I'm feeling it's divisive, then how can I be incorrect that it's divisive?
You're feeling. You're feeling. That's the problem.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
So I noticed when you guys pulled your website up earlier that you had a picture of our governor, because earlier today or yesterday you sent your 5,000th article trashing our governor, who we know and respect from Benton County.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. My name is Paul, and you have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine, and we want you to be a part of that. One of the ways you can do that, call us, text us, 870-275-9799, or sound off on Facebook Live or YouTube, or you can watch us also at paulharrell.com. Now, what do we want to go to next? Should we go to the elephant and the chickens? The elephant and the chickens. Not quite ready for it, Joe, but we will be soon. What does this mean? So the two phrases we've combined here are the elephant in the room and the chickens have come home to roost, right? Elephant in the room, the chickens have come home to roost. Now, I even tried to do on the whiteboard, if you can see this here, okay, I even tried to say, okay, so the elephant here would be Medicaid expansion, so I did that in a bluish tint, right? To represent the Democrats. Now, in reality, this should be kind of multicolored red and blue because, well, it should be a majority blue and a minority red from an Arkansas standpoint. The chickens, though, this is all red because this is a Republican problem at this point because they failed to lead us out of a path that is only going to lead to terrible quality of health care and an out-of-control cost, even more than we already were facing. So, Medicaid expansion. A lot of people don't think, well, yeah, I know I'm paying more in taxes, or my tax dollars are going to be redistributed to a lower class of people or lower socioeconomically speaking, so that they can have free insurance, pays for itself, or whatever you want to call it. But, folks, I just wanted to let you know, Medicaid expansion is responsible for your premiums increasing. There's just no doubt about it. Asa can say all he wants that premium hikes and everything. But listen, it has to do with the fact that the state can't afford this as is, and they certainly are not going to be able to afford it when Blue Cross Blue Shield's making less money, and that's why they want the premium increases. It's not just premiums for your plans, you hardworking folks out there. It's premiums for the free stuff too. That's going to go up as well. So this is all coming to a head. And you call it the Obamacare death spiral. You can call it whatever you want. The fact is, a majority of the power brokers of this state, they bet on Obama and they bet on socialized medicine, and they refuse to say that we're worse off because of it. They refuse. In 2014, last hour I played for you Bart Hester. And Bart Hester specifically, can we play that again, Joe? Do we have Bart Hester again, real quick? I just want for our new audience, specifically for our Mountain Talk audience listening on the great 97.1 KJMT. Oh, by the way, we're going to be interviewing Senator Scott Flippo on Thursday at 5:34. Senator Scott Flippo Thursday at 5:34. I got that confirmed, I guess, a little bit before we went on. Senator Bart Hester of Benton County back in October of 2014 said this.
I'm Bart Hester. I'm the senator from Benton County. On both sides of the ticket, that's what we campaign on. I will. I won't. I promise. What we don't campaign on is sometimes, usually, maybe, if the governor does this, if a lobbyist pressure be this way, if my mayor calls, maybe sometimes, right? We need candidates when the going gets tough, and it's tough. We'll remember that I will and I won't.
All right, so that was you stop that if you can do that. So that was Senator Bart Hester in October of 2014. Okay, this was an election where you didn't hear just comments like that from him. You heard it from everybody, and this was about ending Medicaid expansion. That's what people were elected to do. Okay, that's a fact. So we elected people to end it. They didn't. They grew it. Now we can't afford it. On a state level, we can't afford it, and we also can't afford it from individual standpoint. Our premiums are going up 21%. Who here has gotten a letter from Blue Cross Blue Shield saying your premiums are going up? And by the way, last week we told you that Asa Hutchinson and the Arkansas government, they have an incentive, a perverse incentive, not to care. Asa Hutchinson is presiding over a budget crisis that nobody wants to report or talk about because we can't afford any of these welfare programs for able-to-work adults. What nobody wants to tell you, and I'll reiterate this for the 15th time, seems like, there's a 2.5% premium tax on insurance companies in the state of Arkansas. So whatever your premium is, the government gets to tax 2.5% of that. So when the premiums go up, 21%, and they allowed the insurance department to allow the Blue Cross Blue Shield to do it, you don't see how there's a perverse incentive, because now that means there's more tax revenue going to fund ASA's big spending agenda. Okay? By the way, about Asa being a big spender, I had this special show planned for Asa being a big spender, but we've got people working on this concept, and it's not quite ready yet. It was supposed to be ready today, but we had to send it back for revisions. You're going to love it. I think so. I think I love it. I mean, I've thought of it, so I think it's going to be good. So in 2014, we elect these politicians to end it. Instead, they grew it. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we talked about that last week, too. When Asa Hutchinson got elected, there were 215,000 people on the program, 250,000 people on the program, or something like that, and it went up to 330,000. So, I mean, they presided over increasing this thing by 50% or more. So now we can't afford it. They've grown it. Now we can't afford it. Now we really can't afford it. We couldn't afford it in the first place. Now we really can't afford it. And none of them want to admit it. None of them want to admit it. They don't want to talk about it. That's the elephant in the room. They don't want to talk about it. But the chickens are coming home to roost. I mean, this is you reap what you sow. I mean, we can't afford what they've done, but they don't want to talk about it. It's the elephant in the room, but now the chickens are coming home to roost. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Are they going to double down? No. Now they distract. You know what they say now? Oh, well, we're going to cut your taxes. No, they're not. They're going to shift taxes around. They're going to make sure that the government gets more of your money. But then they'll cut your income taxes. But they'll eliminate all these exemptions. Which, look, folks, I don't like exemptions. I don't like carve-outs. But here's the thing: you can't call it a tax cut if the government gets the same or more revenue than they were before your reforms go into effect. And that is the response of any true conservative facing this issue. We have the elephant in the room. The chickens are coming home to roost. And I have been on the forefront. Other conduits been on the forefront. True conservatives have been fighting this thing since 2013, telling you what it is. And I'm not going to stand by, and I'm not going to let them now just all of a sudden ignore it and grow government with tax increases, telling you their tax cuts, all to pay for their ridiculous ideas that we told you would never work in the first place. We told you this would never work. The elephant and the chickens. Think about that all this week. The elephant and the chickens. And now they're saying tax increases, tax decreases. We're going to tax reform, relief, But all they're doing is trying to figure out a way at best to do revenue-neutral tax cuts, and I promise you it won't be revenue-neutral. You know what else was supposed to be revenue-neutral? The military retirement tax exemption. Funny how they want to end exemptions, but they just passed one for military retirees. I'm a huge fan of the troops, but they created a brand-new tax on digital downloads, and now we know over the next 2 years it wasn't a revenue-neutral tax shift. It was a net increase for the government of the state of Arkansas by $8.9 million over 2 years. That's $8.9 million coming out of our economy, and they got Republicans to go along with it because if you didn't, they'd tell you, well, you don't support the troops. Excuse me, I needed a sip of coffee. So now here's the thing. We elected them to end Obamacare Medicaid expansion. They didn't. They've grown it. It's unsustainable. Now they want to shift the argument. And this is spot-on analysis, folks. You know, you haven't heard this anywhere, but this is what they're doing. This is their game plan. They have to pay for it. If for some reason they don't get their tax increases, they still won't admit what they did unless we change leadership. They still won't admit what they did, and they'll try to siphon the money from education or public safety, and then they'll have tax increases based on that need. They're never going to admit they grew a welfare program and that we can't afford it and we got to get rid of it. They're just not going to do that. So now we've got to focus and elect legislators who will actually cut taxes, not shift them around, not parrot this revenue-neutral situation, not listen to the liberal tax consultant they hired for $300,000 who's been a Democrat all of his life and subscribes to liberal fiscal philosophy, where he said on his Twitter, tax cuts are not tax reform. We've got to find legislators that will actually do tax cuts and define them properly, which means we get to keep more of our money and the government gets less of what they were getting. It's very, very simple. But just to bolster my argument, you want to know why? You want to know why they refuse to double down? Now, I'm sorry, they refused to admit they're wrong and instead they double down. Now, part of me doesn't even want to throw this tweet up there. Part of me doesn't even want you to do this. But do you remember former state representative John Burris, who lost to Scott Flippo and now is a lobbyist for the very policy he lost election on? I mean, he could not become senator. John Burris failed to become a senator because he voted for this monstrosity that we're now trying to figure out how to pay for now and call it a tax cut. Can you believe the irony there? If my analysis is correct, if this analysis is correct, okay, and they actually call paying for welfare and Obamacare a tax cut, that's what it amounts to. If they get what they want, they've got to pay for Obamacare, and they're going to try to carefully craft the language to where they sell it to you as a tax cut. These guys have no shame. So State Representative John Burris lost on this very issue to Scott Flippo. But then he became a lobbyist. It's what we call the Burris syndrome. Matter of fact, we've got Marble Rock parody queued up to play during the next break. The Burris syndrome. You get thrown out of office, but you stay in Little Rock to get your fix on the Marble Rock by lobbying. This is what John Burris said the other day. This was on October the 29th. He said on Twitter, if you don't believe in state-based health care, the only other option is national health care system. Now, this is a glimpse of what the establishment is being told because he's a lobbyist now. He did what they want him to do when he was in office, and now he's financially rewarded for it. He benefits from the continuation of taxpayer-funded subsidies to the insurance companies. John Burris directly benefits from that because the insurance companies are the ones paying the lobbyists. This is the most anti-conservative Republican idea you could ever have on health care, unless you're a Mitt Romney Republican and you thought that socialized medicine in Massachusetts worked out great. Can you imagine? It is now undisputed, by the way. It's now undisputable. You cannot dispute the fact that Arkansans are now going to be paying higher premiums to pay for other people. This was started by the Democrats. The Republicans refused to allow the sunset expiration to have. It was saved by Asa Hutchinson and the nephews. And now you have, and I'm sure John Burris would still consider himself a Republican unless he's pulled a Davy Carter and switched to becoming a Democrat. That's right, Davy Carter, former Republican Speaker of the House, stopped conservatism, implemented liberalism, is now a Democrat. Unless you're John Burris, I would assume he still considers himself Republican or right of center, and he is adopting what is a very dangerous, dark road for your children. I know now as a new father, I think of my kids, or my child right now. I don't have multiple kids yet, but you know what I'm saying. I think of my daughter and the type of health care she's going to have if we keep going down this path, and it really actually scares me. If you don't believe in state-based health care, the only other option is national health care system. I reject those two premises. I reject those two arguments. That may be the only thing that you can see in your world, but you're being paid by the system that wants socialized medicine run by the state or wants it run by the feds, one way or the other. And these health care executives are their next National Health Institute bureaucrats in waiting. They will be bought off. People like John Burris will get a job inside some sort of nationalized health care office. Mark my words. People at the top of Blue Cross Blue Shield or any other of these insurance companies, if we continue to go the way we're going, full on socialized, you have a codified right to health care. You have a codified right to, you are at birth enslaved to your neighbor. You are responsible for them. If we ever go fully down that path, these insurance companies will be taking care of it first. These executives, they will be fine. They will be the people making decisions. They will be the bureaucrats. Mark my words, it's the only way they could do it. It's the last nail in the coffin for the government to fully take over. Instead of right now, it's just a fascist system where the government tries to control the, quote, private, end quote, corporations. But it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Anyway, we've got some Conduit for Action articles to catch up on. One that fell through the cracks last week, and we're going to get to the latest one when we come back, and we're going to go to break back in just a moment.
The Paul Harrell Program.
This is State Representative Dan Sullivan with a Liberty Moment. Governments do not make ideals, but ideals make governments. This is both historically and logically true. Of course, the government can help to sustain ideals and create institutions through which they can better be observed, but the source of their very nature is in the people. The people have to bear their own responsibilities. There's no method by which that burden can be shifted to the government. It's not the enactment, but the observance of laws that created the character of a nation. President Calvin Coolidge.
Paid for by Sullivan for Arkansas.
Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to triplrpawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's triplrpawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at Triple R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat, triplrpawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
It's a PHP parody.
Hey, man. You got any of that marble rock?
Yeah, I've got the hookup.
Thanks. I need a fix real bad. I'm itching to grow some government.
How much you need?
I'm gonna need a taxpayer's dime bag.
No problem, sir. 1 taxpayer dime of marble rock. Enjoy.
Thanks, man. They don't call it Little Rock for nothing. Am I right?
Did you know your state representative or state senator may be addicted to growing government? The drug is called marble rock, and too much of it will cause marble fever. Watch for the warning signs. Does your legislator suddenly display a lack of humility when faced with basic questions? Does he or she suddenly develop hubris and pride that was not present during the campaign for office? These are signs they might be smoking the terrible drug, marble rock. The solution? Detox. Vote for detox. Vote to send them home for their own good.
Warning! Some politicians once voted out of office will not go home and stay in Little Rock to get their fix by lobbying, also known as the Burris Syndrome.
PHP Parody. He puts the Paul in politics. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
That's 870-275-9799. Let's see, what do we have here? I think I have a few. Yeah, okay. So if you go over in I think on, is it Wednesday? We're going to be doing a Conduit for Commerce policy segment. I believe later this week, and it's going to be on the their recommendations, the Tax Reform and Relief Task Force recommendations. So that's going to be later in the week. You certainly want to stay tuned for that. Over at conduitforaction.org, we have this latest piece, which is very good. It's just very, very good. When the governor uses a liberal columnist to publish deceptions. And it starts by saying this, that if you subscribe to Conduit for Action, you'll remember a recent article which began like this. When Governor Asa Hutchinson has to use a liberal columnist like John Brummett to vouch for the governor being plenty Republican enough or plenty conservative enough, that is just embarrassing. John Brummett is entertaining to read, but also happens to be left of even the most Democrats in the state. This is who Governor Hutchinson chose to repeat his talking points, and that speaks volumes about the governor. Now, the article didn't address the fact that the governor's talking points against Conduit for Action were deceptions. And CFA attempts to remedy that here. Well, they do remedy that here. And we'll get back with this article when we come back. And another one. Don't go anywhere. We got a great rest of the program lined up. Back in a minute.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
So I noticed when you guys pulled your website up earlier that you had a picture of our governor, because earlier today or yesterday you sent your 5,000th article trashing our governor, who we know and respect from the Benton County Republican Party. And I recognize that your committee fully supported someone else in the 2014 governor election and you were against our governor. But the point is, and I like to start you guys with Proverbs, I believe it's 18:17. It says, when you hear one side you think it's right till you hear the other side. Senator Hendren will have out a shot evaluation. That's a fighter pilot scoring of these scorecards. You may think one is right until you hear the other side. And I will assure you, what you've seen here tonight is full of misinterpretations. It lacks integrity. It is a total organization that lacks integrity. And you can talk to any legislator here. I'll visit with them. I'll stand
Ms.
right
Barbara,
here.
did you ask us here so we could be treated this way? Ms. Barbara, I asked how to have the discussion.
So the question is,
yes.
Okay, here's the question. If I, as a legislator, voted on nothing, never showed up to Little Rock, would I score a perfect score on your scorecard?
You would probably improve your score.
That's right. No, the deal is if I never showed up, I never did my job, I'd be a perfect on their scorecard.
But we want
the guy
less
that got
government.
number one never comes to work, never votes, rarely ever. They score him number one. That's just one little thing that I'll show you on the rest. But wait till Senator Hendren, who we know and respect, and they trash daily, will have his shot evaluation on this later this week.
I would say we don't trash anyone. We focus totally on their policy and what they do. I want everyone to please go to the website.
Well, there is an article out that we have that addresses this very issue, and it is.
I've got articles on trashing our governor, trashing everyone.
We do have them all footnoted, and every one of them are filled with facts. Now, it's interesting that the legislators will score somebody scoring them. So you kind of got to grade your own paper. That's not their job. I can't force you to do anything. I can't make you pay anything, and I can't pass a law to make you do things. But every one of them can. Now they're going to turn around and score us, and I want to hear facts about what we've got wrong. We can disagree on opinions, and we should have those discussions with our friends. But sometimes we're only friends when we do what you want. And that ain't happening here, folks. We're friends in liberty. If it promotes more government, we're going to say why and who. Count on it. We're not liars, but if we want to count lies, we'll be glad to have that debate too.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Let me say this to you, Joe and Brenda.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so we are continuing with this article that we have here about John Brummett and some of the talking points that are going on right now. And let's see here. We have more on this. So, and Joe, honestly, and I know, yeah, so if you... This is the tax and spend politician segment of the article. Sorry, we're having some delay here getting this up for our online viewers. Anyway, Conduit for Action writes that John Brummett, liberal columnist, repeated the governor's claim that Conduit for Action unfairly labels the governor as a tax raiser because to balance the budget and give military retirees an income tax break, the governor included revenue generation measures to offset the cost of giving the tax break. Wrong. Governor Hutchinson is a tax and spend big government politician, not because of one bill, but because the governor spent the legislative session supporting multiple tax increases. This is what needs to be known here. Number one, the governor's this is the liberal record. I mean, yeah, you've got specific things that have passed, whether it's the military retirement tax increase or whether it's the new tax on tires. Whatever it is, you've got those. But you also have to look at what he supported that didn't pass, okay, which is a relief that shows that we actually have true conservatives who are in position, who are voting and trying to stop this nonsense that's going on. With the governor's blessing, his Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality proposed and got passed a new tax on mounting new and used tires, and the tax money is going to be used by the DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, for a new program to monitor tires through every stage of use, transportation, and disposal, and to impose many new regulations on those who handle used tires. Number 2, the internet tax was defeated by the governor. The internet tax was defeated, but the governor. We've got like a ton of other things going on in studio right now. You have to excuse my my failures here. The internet tax was defeated, but the governor vowed to continue fighting for it. And there's still even talk of a special session. Number 3, the legislature stopped the tax on gasoline and diesel, but the governor vowed to continue to fight for that too. Number 4, and then there are the taxes in the military retiree bill. Brumman and the governor avoided using the word taxes. Instead, they used a term from the liberal playbook and called them revenue-generating measures. The revenue-generating measures are A, an income tax on unemployment pay, B, a sales tax on internet downloads, and C, a sales tax on soft drinks and candy. The taxes in the military retirement bill didn't just offset. We were talking about this a second ago. It was a net tax increase, $5.9 million in 2018 and $2.9 million the next year. $2.9 million this year and $5.9 million the next year. Arkansas is a high-tax state, and the cost of Arkansas government is high calculated on a per capita basis. That's that $7,000 number, or that, a little bit above $7,000 number. Yet Governor Hutchinson ignores that and says we do not have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem. These are the issues with governor and true conservatives. The bottom line on the tax and spend governor, the question is not whether Governor Asa Hutchinson is a tax and spend politician. The question is, did he see any new tax increase proposal he did not like? The answer is no. John Brummett repeated the governor's talking point, claiming that Conduit for Action says the consultant hired by the Tax Reform and Relief Legislative Task Force can't give an honest assessment because the consultant made some pro-Obama, anti-Trump statement on social media. And that's wrong. Conduit for Action writes that they're critical of the task force, and I'm using the word farce. They're critical of the task force hiring a consultant who has a clear liberal bias. But what sparked CFA's criticism was not just tweets about Obama and Trump. It was the consultant's liberal big government presentation to the task force. In his presentation, what he actually did, made a presentation on trying to implement an internet tax. Not only was the tax rejected in Arkansas just a few months ago, an internet tax violates the Republican platform. So he makes this presentation to a Republican legislature. B, pushed for support of more corporate welfare programs. Instead of lowering taxes on Arkansas businesses, this would keep their taxes high to support the giveaways used to pick winners and losers. And C, in his presentation, Randy Bauer floated the idea of the adoption of a state-earned income tax credit, which is denounced by conservatives as a welfare program and supported by liberal groups. Matter of fact, that's like the one thing the Democrats tried to get through last time. With the consultant beginning his very first Arkansas meeting with these liberal big government ideas, we wanted to know if we should expect more of this liberal viewpoint. We looked at his social media accounts, Conduit writes. His liberal bias is not confined to the presentation he made in Arkansas. Yes, some of his social media posts were pro-Obama and anti-Trump, but the governor and his buddy, John Brummett, failed to mention the consultant's donations to Democrats and other social media posts that retweets from left-wing policy groups, pro-Obamacare Medicaid expansion, anti-Second Amendment, and most importantly, his tax philosophy, where he said, quote, tax cuts are not the same as tax reform. In Arkansas, where we have higher taxes than bordering states. That is disappointing. Bottom line, liberal tax consultant, it was the consultant's liberal big government presentation to the task force that demonstrated his liberal bias on taxes. His social media posts and political donations are just further evidence of the bias he showed at the meeting. His bias is especially concerning because the focus of the task force is on tax shifting among taxpayers instead of reducing Arkansas's high tax burden. So let's talk about another talking point. One of his talking points, John Brummett, liberal columnist, the governor has used on the Republican county committee leaders, but wasn't included in Brummett's internet column. Conduit for Action doesn't give Asa enough credit for conservative things, the conservative things that he's done, like his actions regarding Planned Parenthood of the Heartland here in Arkansas, defunding them. Let me stop here for a second. I've given credit on this program many times on Asa defunding Planned Parenthood of the Heartland. And he wants congratulations further, apparently, on this, which is puzzling to me. He defunded Planned Parenthood of the Heartland when the videos of them selling baby body parts over glasses of Merlot and Chardonnay were revealed to the public, and he wants an award for that? Seriously, you want an award for that? And so it's the most basic, it's the easiest decision in the world. They were selling baby body parts. Congratulations for being a caring human being. And I've given you credit for it. I've given you credit for it. I've talked about this many times. That he did do that one good thing. But guess what? I'm focused more on economic issues and taxes, and you keep trying to raise my taxes. So I'm sorry. And this is just the plight of public office. If you hadn't defunded it, yeah, I'd be telling people, because are you not a human being? Do you not see what's going on here? Was there a real cost to doing that? Was there a real political cost to saying to the people of Arkansas, hey, I don't think we should be selling baby body parts and I'm against abortion? Everybody's against abortion in Arkansas for the most part. I mean, a vast, vast, vast majority of us is. By the way, everybody's for the Second Amendment too, and yet Asa wasn't, if you know how the sausage was made, like I do. Anyway, but Conduit goes on and says, to this charge that CFA doesn't give him credit for the conservative things like regarding Planned Parenthood. They write that Governor Hutchinson is very well aware of Conduit for Action's mission. It's not focused on social issues. It's focused on economic issues and our freedoms and ethics. Why aren't social issues a primary focus of CFA? They are already well qualified. There are already well-qualified organizations focused on social issues, and fiscally conservative ideas are underrepresented in Arkansas politics and need our attention. They write, oh, and by the way, organizations focused on social issues might want to take a note of what John Brummett wrote about ASA's pragmatism on those social issues. Specifically in that article, he gave ASA credit for killing the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, but he called the bill anti-gay. Walmart, I promise you, called it anti-gay, and that's why Asa killed it. So Walmart and John Brummett agree. Well, we'll say, I guess Asa was just being pragmatic. They end their piece. It is embarrassing when the governor must rely on liberal columnist John Brummett to vouch for him being plenty Republican enough, quote, plenty conservative enough. It's even worse that the governor gave Brummett talking points that are nothing but deceptive statements about the governor's conservative critics. Again, it's up at Conduit for Action. Now, moving on to this next article that fell through last week, and I honestly, of the two, if you had me to pick, if you asked me to pick, this is my favorite. And I'll tell you why. It exposes the thinking of legislators that they don't want you to know this is their thought process. This article does more to expose all of them than most articles. And it's done by none other than the former head of the Bureau of Legislative Research, David Ferguson. Paying legislators to attend when they aren't members, a better idea. Here's an article with criticisms and solutions. David Ferguson, he says, a few days ago, the budget for the Tax Reform and Relief Task Force was tripled from $50,000 to $150,000. It is the budget for paying mileage and per diem to legislators who attend task force meetings. Much of the task force's allotment was spent on paying legislators who are not members of the task force. Representative Josh Miller questioned the wisdom of raising the task force budget to pay for non-members who sign in at the meeting. Senator Linda Chesterfield defended the increase, saying, quote, "We can say to General Assembly members who are not on the committee, don't come, don't find out what we're talking about, or we can do as we did with the Health Reform Task Force and accommodate them by enlarging the budget," end quote. The expenditure for paying non-task force members to attend the meetings is just the tip of the iceberg. Every legislative task force and every legislative committee pays non-committee members who sign in. The legislature's policy of paying non-committee members didn't come about until after 1992. Before then, a legislator either had to be a member of the committee or the committee chair had to approve payment because the non-member legislator was presenting a study request to the committee. With the 1992 term limits causing a third of the House of Representatives to be new members every 2 years, it was argued legislators needed to be educated more quickly, and therefore to encourage them to attend meetings of many committees, the legislature adopted the "y'all come and be paid" policy, which means any legislator who shows up gets paid for being at the committee meeting. Now, this is some good stuff, isn't it? You're not going to hear this other places. The education argument went away in 2014 when term limits were weakened with a 16-year term limit. Big turnovers in the legislature are a thing of the past, but no one considered ending the "y'all come and be paid now, you hear?" policy. So let's talk about how the policy bloats expenses. David Ferguson writes, "When I worked for the Bureau of Legislative Research, I saw the y'all come and be paid policy in daily use. Much of what went on was not about legislators being educated. It was about getting another per diem payment just for being in town, now $155 a day. Some of the non-committee members would hang around and listen, at least until they had something else to do. But it was common to see a legislator walk into a committee room, of which he was not a member, go straight to the sign-in sheet, and soon walk out. Some would hang around for a while, drink a cup of coffee, talk to some colleagues or lobbyists, and then walk out holding a cell phone in hand as if something urgent just came up. A legislator who attends a legislative committee meeting or legislative task force meeting receives a payment for mileage to and from home, a per diem for lodging, and a per diem for meals. No receipts necessary. A legislator receiving payment for attending his own committees is not at issue. The issue is the temptation for the legislator to find a committee of which he is not a member and sign in just to get paid. Here are some typical situations where a legislator signs in but cares nothing about listening to the committee discussion. Now listen to this. This is very wise, and you could only get this from the firsthand experiences of David Ferguson. A legislator attends his committee meeting and spends the night in Little Rock. He has nothing going on the next day, but before going home, he can get another per diem payment if he just drops by the Capitol and signs into another committee. It's like, oh, before I go home, let me get another $155 real quick. Who's going to say no to that? B, another line of thought might be that a legislator has a committee meeting on Wednesday and one on Friday, but doesn't have a meeting on Thursday. Since he is already in town, he can drop by any legislative committee meeting on Thursday and get paid. Or C, a legislator comes to Little Rock to meet with a lobbyist and the lobbyist's clients. The state doesn't pay, except for legislative committee meetings. So the legislator finds a committee that is meeting and signs in for his check. The legislator could have had the meeting with the lobbyist on a day he actually had a committee meeting. These three situations, these three scenarios, David Ferguson writes, are all accepted practices. The "y'all come and be paid" policy is impossible to police. In the past, committee chairs have tried. What are you going to do? Put a timer on a legislator to ensure he spends a respectable amount of time in the meeting before ducking out? Perhaps the policy helps educate a few legislators, but even if every non-committee member who signed in was forced to stay the entire meeting before getting paid, there is still a much cheaper way to achieve the goal of educating legislators. Now, this is what they don't want to hear, and this exposes them all. Listen to this. With more non-committee members dropping by, many committee chairs began inviting the non-committee members to sit in empty chairs at the committee table. Then, it became common in many committees for non-committee members to participate just like members, other than voting. Some legislators complained that their committee membership has been diminished by this. So many non-committee members come in to participate in some committees that some committee chairs have sometimes found it necessary to announce committee members will be recognized first before non-members. Instead of paying tons of money to non-committee members to come and gawk, the gawkers could get the same education and information for a lot less money. How? By the legislature providing live video streaming and recording of all legislative meetings held in Little Rock. And everyone in the Arkansas Senate said, no. If the goal is to educate legislators and is not about extra income, providing live streaming and video recording can reach more legislators. If saving taxpayer money is of any concern, providing video would be cheaper than the y'all come and get paid policy. Here are some questions that might be raised by those who want to keep the money flowing. 1. What if a non-committee member legislator wanted to ask a question? That's pretty simple. It used to be that non-committee member had to slip a note to a committee member to get a question asked. With technology, it's even easier. Legislator watching the live feed from home could simply text a question or point to a committee member. Lobbyists in the audience text committee members all the time questions right now. What about another question? Question 2, well, what if a legislator wants to see the agenda and attachments? Well, the agenda and the attachments are already posted on the website right now. You can go look at them. Even some last-minute exhibits can be attached. Number 3, what if legislators don't have the setup to watch live video back home? Well, watching live events on a computer is pretty common now, and don't worry, all legislators have a state-issued laptop. Solve that one. At least 4 House committee rooms in the Capitol are equipped for live streaming and video right now. Those 4 rooms can handle nearly all legislative meetings. Think about that for a second. They don't want to hear this. If video equipment, listen to this, those 4 rooms can handle all legislative meetings that happen in a day during the interim between sessions. If video equipment was added to the 2 larger committee rooms, Room 171 in the Capitol and Room A in the Big Mac building, all or practically all meetings could be held in a room with live streaming and video. Even better, equip all committee rooms like the House does. The Senate doesn't want to do it, though. Despite most House committee rooms being equipped for video, those rooms are rarely used by the legislature between legislative sessions. House and Senate committees meet jointly between sessions, and the Senate refuses to meet where there is House video equipment. Providing live streaming and video recording, much cheaper than the y'all come and get paid policy, gives non-committee members just as much information, allows non-committee members who can't make it to Little Rock a way to catch up by watching the archive video footage. It allows committee members who can't make it to their committee meeting a way to catch up on the information later, provides public access to the meetings, but don't hold your breath. They have had much resistance to this in the past. I don't see it changing anytime soon unless somebody wants to run on transparency and recording all committee votes and actually making a difference. We got to take a break. Back in a moment.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to talk radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
In Arkansas, every single hour there is a politician not getting what they want. For some, it's an absolute nightmare. The sleepless nights wondering if progress will ever come. Lying awake pondering how to grow government in this political climate. Asking questions like, why don't my constituents want to pay a few cents more in taxes? Everyday politicians feel abused and neglected. These politicians are starving for power. They're hungry, confused, and they don't understand why no one seems to care. Will you be a patriot and commit today to help these poor, starved for power public officials? It's simple. All you have to do is commit to stay silent and never dissent or stand in the way of your politicians' rise to power. Never speak up or get engaged to stop the growth of government. By committing to these simple steps, you will ensure that life of your politician will be filled with contentment and the respect they are desperately seeking, as well as campaign contributions from lobbyists.
This message brought to you by Aristocrats Serving Arkansas.
PHP Parody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, that's all the time we have today. I went long on that article. I do appreciate all of you listening. You guys are patriots. You guys are lovers of liberty. We're fighting against very, very, very big, powerful people here in the state of Arkansas. And we're going to keep getting you the truth. We're going to be back here tomorrow. So, Arkansas, be safe.